Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Červená Barva Press reading series. And tonight I'm very excited to have Michael and Andrew here to read from their new books. And let me show them to you. This is True Heresies by Michael Daley. There's kind of a glare, but maybe you can see it. And Saying Goodbye by Andrew. And maybe if I go over here. There we go. And I'm really happy to have published both these books. They're really wonderful. If you don't have them, please order them from the authors or from Červená Barva Press. And so let's get started. Michael Daley will be our first reader. He holds a BA from the University of Massachusetts and an M.F.A. from the University of Washington. His work has been awarded by Seattle Arts Commission, Washington State Arts Commission, Mass Cultural Council, Fulbright, the Skagit River Poetry Foundation, and the Poets House Trust. A retired teacher, he lives near Deception Pass in Washington. And I give you Michael.
Well, thank you, Gloria. Gloria is the only familiar face that I'm seeing. I have a few friends who said that they would try, and they may still try to get on, but I don't think they know how. We're all a little rusty at Zoom. And anyway, my one friend who was going to get on is a poet, Finn Wilcox, and I wanted to read this one for him because it's about my dog who he saved her life. So I later wrote this poem that it happened to do with my dog, Willa. It's called Know Thyself. If one's dog were the embodiment of one's soul, mine is this off-putting, snippish hermaphrodite. Nobody knows but she how impossible is the moon's stillness. Nobody can follow a trail with as much snoutish superiority. Her story is that of a ship battered on a wild coast whose crew washes up on a beach and christens it paradise. With such small paws, my selfless soul issues forth, protectress of any sand where my shadow might pass. She argues and assails and quivers endlessly as if a reunion with the double were imminent. Long lost stray, and careless littermate who bolted downwind after an unpleasant seagull and never came home. She is gigantic in her own so-called mind, a thing itself like my own half-aware skeptic's etch-a-sketch, blank as impotence, impaired by mortal blindness. She is that noble eminence I see every day in the mirror, much too self-consoled to need any smoothing hand along my hackles. Fur raised in an instant to protect you, who so kindly have a biscuit in your pocket, even now, if I behave. Know thyself. And this one, this one I think is more suitable for the times. It's called The Happiest Must Be Unable to Speak About Tragedy. The girl in the back says, let's let the diseased help control the population and don't soften the pain unless it's the cure. 13-year-old survivalist raised by Salvationists. Others question, did she ever suffer loss? Had a cure been available in the great flu pandemic of 1918? Could the body rags draped over a cart have influenced her as ethicist in charge of limiting the population to offer it? There are several pretty long poems in this book, and I thought I would just read some that are just one page and shorter. I think most of you are in the Boston area, maybe. Well, maybe on the East Coast. and there's a very long poem that I discovered today, takes 10 minutes to read, autobiography of a monarch butterfly. And it's mostly about my experience growing up in Boston. But now I live in Washington State. This is kind of a takeoff on Christopher Smart's poem, Jubilate Año, the section about his cat, Jeffrey. I forgot to put my timer on. I think I'll do that now. For I will consider my truck ranger, for he can creep, Christopher Smart. That it be metaphor to meadows, that the dull tooth cut through reality precise and slow, that it clatter, that its rivetless undercarriage complain at idle, and the bespectacled shall turn in rigs on high, impeccably appointed for a hall of sun to services blocks away, that it stand without charge, guiltless and indifferent, that at cable it leap to the mouse of spark, that my own fingers cause to ignite, that it float on bald, underfilled balloon synthetics of jungles till blowouts out of cell range on backcountry hicklog spurs, and it sag without blame, regret, or expectation on limp headlamps. That it is emotionless causality my touch ignites, that my musculature twist its interlocked geometries, unspeakable bearings, greasy tranny, squeaking linkages, and slippy clutch foot pedal, that it abide by the map in my head, though faulty, while I, skeptic of Google, refuser of gas pump direction pointers, blind Oedipus sweating out the doom, take my life to back roads in far places, that it be spear for conquest, that the thumb ignite, that puddles of unplumbed fossil be war, though peace sticker its bumper, that its cause of causes rattles on like unfed grandma in the ward, that every direction sets mountains of odes on odometer free. Living it out. This is how first people made movies. They touched the sky with both hands, threaded light through a hive, and pictures of you doing things you never did appeared. Questions you never thought twisted on your thumb. Thread dropped in the honey jar, that sticky continuum. A film in the whirlpool. A stone electric truth, inescapable as mahogany, zooms in as your fugitive car flees their cameras behind the cold stars. Another short one, undeniable. Typhoon follows hurricane, follows flood, follows drought, is not the probable course of nations in decayed branches, songbirds attached. Raving lunatics will not farm out the cold sea's metaphysical purity, shall not pick the lock to burning Arctic summer. Outside the inaugural ball, all the grieving sounds in public malls and on the cracked sidewalks where weeds freeze now. Plastic wrappers fly by. Who has the time to petition the government to reclaim its humanity? The beloveds in every household are leaving us behind in the middle of the parking lot, the temperatures plunging into minus. Relentless is the order. Cued in our stockings and socks before TSA, its familiar mechanism for scrutiny enfolds us, we meek, we patient, we mild jokesters for whom officers pretend ease as ICE gazes appraise old photos, beardless visages. Familiar too, the uniform memorialized instructions rung above a human hum, conveying our luggage, our wealth, icons, joys, our meds, odd shoes. We rush, we meek, we halt, we limp, we pissed, we ordered in this primal relationship, bag-lugging cue and guard, a comfort in a way, willingly to herd behind the gesture. Enter the device, valuables belong here, pockets shall be empty. When did this begin? Was there a border to cross with our immigrant impurities into Egypt? A line of soiled beseechers and attendants at the emperor's gates, subject to pat down? Who's to say whether with our smeared passports, we meek, we loving innocents, arrive at divine gates scanned by wan, humbled to exhausted tears, the child led away by strangers' fingers as we step into the next line, we travelers eternal, inured, in shock, we wait. And etc. The filly in a meadow is a dream. Nightly, during the reign of the demagogue, forecasters of the news like card sharks shuffled and dealt opinions, the filly in the meadow in a bluster of breezes, and pushed the thread of a story uphill, rolled away Floridian glacial till off his unkillable glitter. Once I named my pickup Sisyphus Rex, Rex with a W, sharpened the clamps on its jumper cables, filled and spit-shined a gas can, pressed a nickel of air on the spare, and onto the keychain for luck I hooked my father's World War II dog tags. Still, I pushed and towed the quiet relic up the hill, the filly curious in the meadow, the radio on. They were onto the new cryptocurrency usury then. In the bluster of a breeze in the hemisphere of hysteria, we barter COVID shots for shreds of Confederate flags. The past crawls out of an animal carcass. There's no elaborate rewrite. We survive. A filly in a meadow. It takes a body back. One last one. I don't know if you are from Massachusetts like I am, you may remember a place called Paragon Park on Nantasket Beach. This is a memory that I had, that I've always had. 1957, Paragon Park, and it has this little snip of a few lines from T.S. Eliot, Little Gidding. Every poem on an epitaph and any action is a step toward the block, to the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone, and that is where we start. Carry me back into open daylight the way I carry now one summer evening's end of the season when the swaying giant roller coaster shut down. We were to sit by ourselves, my sister and I, beside the open barroom doors, fried clams, Cokes, our beach wishes flung off the waves, 4 low, quiet voices, 2 men in scally caps, wives whispering. My sweet Aunt May, always in whispers, faces and gestures fixed in memory. The owners of the Beachtime Cocktail Bar, her friends, our 2 children plates by the starlit doorway, chair legs upturned at all the other tables, ages 10 and 7, white sand, salt white beach. Hush, she said, hush, again, from those sad creaking bar stools. Clink of glasses, ring of cigar smoke, the friar's sizzle. I'm back there now, though the ground scraped bare and the insult of a bricked up plaza buried the sea. Wind and sand choked their lungs, cancer's surprise ending to good, true friendship when whispering, closing night of their final summer's run, the kindly beach in every way their own, crests above the sparking sand, gull screech, cool shade. Do I make too much of one summer evening? I changed my life, but I've carried them half a century, their gentle, intense goodbyes, into open daylight, another now, not so different from this. Thank you very much. You're all muted clapping, that's right. That's beautiful.
It is kind of funny. Anyway, nice. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Gloria.
Okay. And our next reader, Andrew Stancek. He's been published in SmokeLong Quarterly, FRIGG, Green Mountains Review, New World Writing, New Flash Fiction Review, Jellyfish Review, and many others. Among his contest wins are the London Independent Story Prize, the Reflex Fiction Contest, and the New Rivers Press American Fiction Contest. His work has appeared in Best Microfiction 2021 and many other anthologies. And I give you Andrew.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really need to begin with thanks. Thanks, first of all, to Gloria for publishing the book, and I'm enormously grateful. The book itself has been in the works for just about 10 years in various incarnations, and I'm absolutely thrilled that there is now a physical object with which I can say to people, yes, I am a writer. So here I am. So thanks to Gloria, thanks to everybody who's come, and I am so just thankful. And Sarah, I'm very thankful for a very generous blurb which she's given me. So thanks for that. So the book itself is a novella in flash, which means all the pieces are short, under 1,000 words, and they are interconnected. So the book is intended to be written from beginning to end. There is a continuous narrative, and it takes place over a year. And the physical setting is Bratislava, which is my hometown. So I'm very familiar with it. And our protagonist at the very beginning of the book is 6, and then over the course of the novella, 1 year passes, so he's 7 at the end. So here is the excuse me, the very first flash piece. It's called Soldiering. Gray Soldier, that's my title. Everyone has been calling me that for such a long time. Once I had Dad, then I didn't. Something happened and Mommy didn't talk about it, and I did not talk about it. Nobody talked about it. I used to have a space saved in my mind for Dad, but once he disappeared, so did the space. Then Mommy stopped being there. When she reappeared, she didn't talk about where she'd been. I'd never know when she'd be there and when she wouldn't. Sometimes she was, sometimes she wasn't, and I never knew. She'd bring food, usually. We didn't talk about it. She'd come with maybe 3 loaves of bread, 3 bottles of milk, and a hunk of cheese, and we ate. Another time, a coil of sausage and a bunch of radishes, a bag of pastries. For 2 or 3 days, I might not see her, and I ate cheese, drank milk, and didn't know if I should be saving food. I ate, not saving usually. One day, she came home after I was asleep, woke me up, told me to brush my teeth and put on pajamas. She didn't say where she'd been or how long she'd be home. I stared at the spidery wrinkle across her forehead, at her eyebrows and her neck. She yelled, "Don't look at me like that!" And I hid under the kitchen table. She began to cry, took one plate after another from the credenza and threw them against the wall, yelling, "Dost, dost, dost," which means enough. She stopped, and after a while I fell asleep under the table. A few days later, she came with a watermelon, cut it in slices, and we each had 3. She began pacing. She paced in the flat for 3 days, stopping occasionally to rock in a chair and mutter. Finally, she stopped, called me a brave soldier, and said, "I'll have a better place to live." I wanted to ask, but didn't. I still had a space in my mind for her. She said, "Pack the small blue suitcase with everything you want to keep." And I did. "Grandma and Grandpa love you and will look after you forever. It'll be better for you." She was pulling her hair and biting her lip as she was saying that, peering back into the kitchen. We took the streetcar to Grandma and Grandpa's. I knew she would just leave, and she did. Second piece is called "In the Beginning." Mommy pushed me through the doorway. Grandpa's cushy sweater, with the patches in the elbows, clutched and nuzzled me. Mommy was already walking away. I turned my head, and her steps were runs. She did not look back. I knew she didn't want to hear goodbyes. The door closed with a click. I knew I'd live there for good, and Grandpa knew too. He hugged hard. I inhaled cherry sizzling. Grandma was making my favorite dessert, bublanina. In my new kingdom, I would eat like a king, ride a shiny red bike, perform good deeds for my subjects, and I would never think about Mommy again. Secrets and escapes. The first month at Grandma and Grandpa's, I spent rooting through the attic. Cobwebbed and sneezing, I brought treasures to Grandpa to hear their story. Oh, that magnifying glass, I remember, must be heavens, 40 years since Captain Studala used it to start a fire, saving us from frostbite. Later, a young recruit dropped it in the barracks. You and I will work on fire starting one sunny day. Oh, that cape with a rip, oh yes, belonged to Kochkorad, the wizard. I apprenticed with him for a year, lifetime ago. For his disappearing trick, he would wind the cape around himself, call on thunder, and be gone. As long as it was the end of the show, it worked, but sometimes he disappeared too early, and the audiences yelled and wanted to give our troupe a beating. You and I haven't practiced enough magic for a disappearing trick. In a few years, maybe. Grandpa and I did not talk about Mommy, who vanished, even without a cape. In the corner of the bedroom I shared with Grandpa, I had my own treasure hoard, presents from Grandma, an officer's hat, a sailor's, and investigators. Snuff, my stuffed mouse, I brought from my previous life, and I whispered secrets to him nightly. My days were busy, but the night was always windy. Shutters banged, owls hooted, tree branches crashed. Any day, Mommy might suddenly stand by my cot at midnight, shake my shoulder, and say, "Wake up, we're running again." I was half expecting a message, in Morse code perhaps, or for a stranger on the street to lean in and say, 3 o'clock tomorrow in front of the Manderlach. My rucksack with a ball of twine, a jackknife, a topographic map, and a slingshot rested under my bed next to my runners. The day Mommy came through the front door, calling, "Hello, anybody home?" I hid behind Grandpa. He kissed both her cheeks, peered into her face, and reached for a bottle of Slivovitz. "You're pale, too thin. We had plum dumplings last night. Your mom will bring a nice plate with a shot or two on the side." Mommy cringed. Her voice was hoarse, like she didn't use it anymore. She reached into her purse, brought out a matchbox-sized package, paper torn in the corners. "Your birthday present, Adam," handed it to me, staring at her shoes. "Hope you like it." I peered at Grandpa, uncertain if I should open it. Grandpa patted her hand, touched her hair. We weren't expecting you today. You didn't come for..." He glanced at me. My 6th birthday, over a month ago, had ended with Grandma clearing the plate set aside, and she and Grandpa in a whisper-shouting fight about ingrates. "So glad you came, Blanca." She sat on the edge of her chair, hands white clenched on the embroidered tablecloth. "Maybe Mom could come here," she said. "I need to talk to you both." "Helly," Grandpa called. "Come, sit, visit with Blanca." In the kitchen, it sounded like 3 pots dropped, followed by another for emphasis. Mommy's face grew paler, her eye twitched. She twirled a strand of hair and stood up. "Maybe this is a bad idea." "Damnation and thunderbolts, Helly, can you stop rumbling there and come?" Grandma shuffled in, jaw set, wiping hands on a flowered apron, eyes sticking between the 3 of us, settling on her wedding picture on the mantle behind Grandpa. "Adam, why don't you go outside to play?" Mommy's voice was barely audible. "Enough secrets," Grandma yelled. "Always whispers behind closed doors. Special meetings, conspiracies, nonsense. You have some scheme or disaster to announce? Your son should hear it." The vein on Grandpa's forehead rubbed purple. He cleared his throat to talk, but changed his mind. His look told me to stay put. "I can't," Mommy said. "I've tried, but can't. It's hard on everyone, and I wish I were stronger. I was going to send a postcard, but I've come to say goodbye. When I find a place, I'll let you know." She shook like the rabbit when Grandma and I picked it out of the hutch to slit its throat for a roast. She squinted. I stared at the gouges on her jaw, the crack on the left lens of her glasses. She took 3 steps to the door. I'll write. Try not to hate me." The door clicked behind her. I ripped the paper off the package she left. A miniature tow truck with whirring wheels. I snapped the winch off and shoved the truck into the coffee grounds in the garbage. And then much time passes, many other flashes, and then I will read one more from many months later. This one is called Dust to Dust. Grandma was dead. Grandpa was sobbing, and Mommy was still gone. Grandpa's whole body was shaking. I said, there, just like he had when I let the rabbit out of the hutch. The neighbor's cat swatted him, and Punja squealed and twitched and then was dead. But Grandpa was heaving like he would vomit, and he couldn't stop. Grandpa always knew what to do. Grandma knew cakes and dumplings and parrot cages. Grandpa knew straight spine and saying the right words, and especially not speaking. When Mummy and I appeared at the doorstep and I rang the bell, it was Grandpa who opened the door, and Mummy pushed me forward. I looked at him, not her, and something happened in his eyes. His chin trembled. He pulled me in and did not call out after her. He had been in hospital, and the doctor said for him to exercise. And Grandma grumbled he wasn't taking good enough care of himself, but we knew he'd be there for us forever. We did not know about Grandma, just like we had known about Mummy. The kitchen smelled of garlic, fried caraway, burnt cinnamon, and brown sugar from the buchti, which Grandma baked 2 days ago. My tummy gurgled. I shouldn't be thinking of sweets at a time like this, but my tummy didn't know to behave. I squished an ant with my thumb, made him into mush. Everybody was always leaving in this house. I knew I would live here forever, not leave. Liverwurst in the fridge, pumpernickel in the bread box, Grandpa said. And now, my friends, is an introduction to saying goodbye.